Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Welcome to the Lone Stakers podcast. Hi, I'm Albert Davis, and I'm a solo staker on the Ethereum blockchain.
And I'm Tommy Harold, and I'm a solo staker.
Both Tommy and I are crypto enthusiasts, navigating the world of Ethereum solo staking. We're not experts, but we're on a journey to learn more. So join us as we explore, learn, and stake our claim in the Ethereum network. Well, welcome, Jefferson, to the Lone Stakers podcast. By the way, my co-podcaster Tommy couldn't be here today, so I'm gonna be doing the solo Stakers podcast solo today. And so I found it very interesting that you have the Around the Block podcast, and that's been going for a while. How you want to just mention a little bit about that podcast? How long it's been going? What got you started with it? And anything you have?
Sure. Well, years ago, when I was even before I did journalism, I was editing Wikipedia pages for a lot of the different crypto projects. For example, there was another WorldCoin project, and I used to maintain that WorldCoin Wikipedia page, which is hilarious because now they're the new WorldCoin, right? But that's the thing. It's like I had name, date, people, what was going on, all of that stuff. And randomly, there was a Wikipedia editor that deleted just almost 10,000 pages or something. Just all of that crypto history back in 2013, 2014. And it was devastating to me because all my work just got deleted. And the rationale was there was no way to know if this was a paid placement or not. And I'm like, honestly, half of Wikipedia is probably paid placement. There's no way to know if it's paid placement. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm not getting paid for this. Whatever. Just that Wikipedia editor just had a thing about crypto projects, I guess. And so I looked around. I was trying to find a way to make sure that history cannot be deleted. And I found out that podcasts, along with the rest of journalism, has a unique place with, basically it's akin to radio, right?
It's akin to what?
Radio.
Okay.
Things that happen on the radio can't necessarily be deleted, right? And as a matter of fact, a lot of the radio shows, a lot of the Pick Something, they're archived by Library of Congress and now the Wayback Machine. So I found out that I could submit texts and even whole podcasts to the Wayback Machine. So I started that whole podcasting process back in 2013, 2014. There's been a couple of names, like One Confirmation and Around the Block. But I had other co-hosts, and finally I just did it myself. And I've interviewed so many amazing people. For example, Adam Draper. He has been doing just amazing stuff with just anything in metaverse, crypto. If you check out his, Adam, just check out his name, Adam Draper. You'll see there's a list of probably 150 different projects he's on. And he's well plugged in to what's happening within the crypto metaverse and all that. And it's going gangbusters. And here's the thing. Let's say I do an interview with him. It should not be the case that interview gets deleted because somebody has a thing about crypto. This is history. This is somebody's life that we're talking about here. And I am fortunate enough to have, 20, 30 minutes of a snippet of their life to find out what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're passionate about, who they are. And I have learned so much over the years from all of these people. There's the one guy that's working for one of the big firms, working with the Fortune 5 company, Ethereum project. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, the reason why we're not going big with Ethereum right now is it cannot literally handle for one client alone more than 1 million transactions a day. just for one client, and they have a bunch. So imagine they're talking about hundreds of millions or even about possibly billions of transactions per day. And actually that upgrade is happening, I think early next year, if I remember correctly, to the Ethereum blockchain. And so, I mean, imagine it's like getting an insight that this is what's going to happen from the people that are actually making history happen. And again, I'm so fortunate to be able to do that.
Wow, that's an amazing perspective, and it is true. Well, it's I guess as long as information is let's put it this way, anything can be lost to posterity. Maybe perhaps with the exception of things on a blockchain, which I guess remains to be seen. But yeah, the frustration that you experienced, I think a lot of people working in the digital realm especially can relate to, because let's put it this way, a book, you can't just press a button and delete an entire book. It's more of a conscious act. And some things people lose in the digital world because of an accidental keystroke, or maybe the computer gets a little old and they go to a new computer and there's a bunch of stuff on that old computer that just kind of stays there. And they think maybe one day someone will come after me and look at all the great stuff I left behind. And then at some point that goes into, it just goes to somewhere else. So, but capturing this moment, these are kind of historical times in a sense. I mean, you're talking to people involved in the industry, that are, you say, movers and shakers and people that really have the insight. So, so I think that's phenomenal, that you've been on that nice podcasting journey, and it is a way to really get deeper and understanding things better. So I'd like to have an idea from you how you kind of went your pathway before you got interested in the crypto industry or cryptocurrencies, and then kind of when you got introduced, like how you saw that and then kind of went into that realm.
So in 2010, a friend of mine sent me an article about this Satoshi guy writing this Bitcoin thing, and he wanted my opinion about it. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. I'm always if you want to know what's going on, ask Jefferson type of thing to my friends and family, right? So, if it's a scam or not. And so I took a look at it, and I was like, wow, this is very much, and I've been familiar with the e-gold thing that came before that. They're kind of like a predecessor to Bitcoin. And that was definitely a scam. I warned people off of it. But Bitcoin, I was like, wow, this is very different because, no one person controls everything. There's not some random dude with a ledger saying, something. There's actually nobody owning it. And I was like, wow, that looks really, really, but then the next was like, well, let's see if it actually works. So I had a gaming machine, of course, and I downloaded Bitcoin. One of those people that lost coin, because I'll tell you. So I don't know how much really, because it was just mining for like more than a month. And my wife actually one day was like, why is the room getting so hot? Because we're coming out of winter. And I was like, well, open a few windows, right? So, but I mined. There was some amount of Bitcoin that I didn't really check. I have no idea. But imagine a computer mining for more than a month. There's probably, 500 Bitcoins on it. Thing was, the price of Bitcoin fell to 50 cents. And there was this scammy board called Bitcoin Talk that I signed up for. And you can see my handle on there, Mind Dragon. It's still there. Talk about history not being deleted. Some stuff is still there. So, and I'm like, these people seem so scammy. I'm going to write it off. So I paid it off. And then about 2012, I read the news all the time. I read 800 words a minute. And I like all day I'm reading what's happening. And I read this article, Bitcoin's up to 100. Whoa, wait, well, the last I saw was 50 cents. What's this $100 business? And so, yeah, I got back in. And then I went to, I was like, well, I want to find out more about it. So, and my wife was like, I need to kick you out of the house. You need to go somewhere. Fine. So I ended up going to some Bitcoin meetups, headed up by a bunch of shady characters, so to speak, right? My wife was like, got to kick you out of the house. And so I end up going to these Bitcoin meetups, and I find all these randomly weird, shady characters. I'll have you know, though, these shady characters go on to farm salt, the Bitcoin ATM, two of the largest Bitcoin ATM companies around the world, two different people there. Crypto Panama, but they faded out long since, but they were actually the banking company behind a lot of exchanges for a while. And on and on. I mean, this was then. I met the people that later went on to found all these incredible companies. And so, hence the reason why I wanted to do podcasts, right? Later, I was like, well, I'm going to, and that's why I got so pissed off about people rewriting history. It's like, really? I mean, these are the people that are now, look at what they're doing, you know? ATMs all over the world because of this guy getting him. So now you go ask yourself, what was he thinking like back in 2013, 2014? You know, this is like incredible stuff to even know. You know, just see, my dad likes history. And so in a way, I kind of like history myself. You know, and not from I want to read a history book. No, if I ever see one again, that's going to be too much. But I like, you know, just knowing why something ended up a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. Because that'll give you insights into, you know, even things you do. There was another great series that actually kind of inspired me called Connections, right? By James Burke. Highly recommend watching at least the first season. Incredible to understand how innovation happens. And I see it happening right now today in the crypto industry. People go, oh, it's a bear market. I'll have you know that there's probably no fewer than 5,000 projects, like real projects being worked on right now. And even if you go, well, 4,000 of them is garbage, that means there's 1,000 projects that are likely going to succeed. All right, you talk about a numbers game. This is one for the history books. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even outside of that, you go, well, the top 100, what are they doing? Well, Solve Care, for example. I know they're not even in the top 100 by market cap. Don't look at market cap. It's not about the dollar. I keep trying to tell people, it's not about the dollar. It's about what you do with crypto. Crypto is an innovation. Crypto is egoless money. And that's what I learned so long ago in 2012. That's what I realized. And that's why I've been so passionate about it for all these years, is that decentralized, egoless money, programmatic money, it's a language now of money and energy. And now you can translate this into just anything within the world.
Well, that's awesome, Jefferson. I found it fascinating that like you immediately said, you know, I want to do this mining thing way back. That's not everybody's first like go-to thing, but it's like how you could understand how it really worked. I think that you have to have like your hands on. And so now can you give us a little insight how you kind of went from Bitcoin, which is what most people initially start, and then when you learned about Ethereum, and then did you do any mining on Ethereum, and then the staking part of Ethereum?
This is a great story. So another shady character, so to speak, and I'm using that term lightly, all right? He shows up at the Denver Bitcoin meetup, and actually at the Golden one too, because people were branching out and all that. And he goes, I'm going to give a talk how Ethereum works, right? And he goes into this, I'm not kidding, super like PhD engineering level. Now I kind of got it, all right? And this is when the light bulb went on in my head, all right? And I kind of got it. I was like, this is amazing stuff. And my friend was there, and he's like, should I buy Ethereum? It's only $5 right now. I was like, yeah, you might as well pick up some, sell some Bitcoin and buy something. He ended up buying like 1,000 Ethereum. So, and I can only buy a few. I'm one of those poor, broke, starving engineering people, right? But the Ethereum guy, but the big thing with it was the ability to program. And he actually gave the basis of a smart contract. They didn't call it smart contract then. He called it some virtual computing something or other. I forget what he called it, something like that. Like virtual computing algorithm, whatever. Smart contract, much nicer name. And I was like, man, you could do so much with that. Programming, creating, well, you see it all now today. And to wit, there's a guy that's running around now. It's the Kong project, where you can put an NFT on a physical object. All right.
On a physical what?
NFT. Like you can program using the blockchain a physical NFT. That means to verify it, you just need the blockchain. You don't need any of this. You talk about the ultimate security. I can't think of much better than that. Like if you don't have that, you're not getting in the door. So to speak, it'd be much better than the Q systems we have today, which are, by the way, very hackable. So, I mean, on and on. There's a lot of uses for just level 1 uses. And so that's, like I said, that's when the light bulb went on because of programming and so forth else. And so I've stayed with Ethereum over the years. I always say Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't even say Litecoin. I don't even say any of the others. All right? It's Bitcoin and Ethereum. Because if you want to be safe, sure, if you want to play or whatever, play, right? Keep in mind that project could go to zero and you're done, right? Like WorldCoin, the first one, went to zero. So the new WorldCoin, maybe, who knows, right? But will Ethereum, will Bitcoin go to zero? Never. And the reason is usability. Bitcoin has Lightning Network, but Ethereum has something so much more. It has that programming capability, which now they've added layer 2. Again, all the layer 2s go back to Ethereum as layer 1. And they're now adding layer 3, and in some places, all right? So you want to talk about some amazing stuff that's coming, that's the one to look at, because when you start to add these additional layers on top, you gain functionality. Just like there's the old, and I'm going to go a little geek speak here, but the old OSI model computer. The early days of computers, we had friggin' vacuum tubes. They call that layer 1, right? Nobody deals with vacuum tubes anymore or transistors anymore. Why? Because, well, the way up here at layer 7, right? Yes, they literally went from layer 1 to layer 7 from the 1970 through, I would call it about 1990. All right, it took them 20 years to build all 7 layers. All right, now in 10 years, we're at layer 3 with Ethereum. And, you can already see what's coming next, all right? So if you want to talk about something that's going to go somewhere, that's going to be now, how does Ethereum secure its network? Well, it was another revolutionary from the standpoint that they're the largest blockchain to adopt this principle of staking. And, I mean, yes, there were others that came before, but I would call Ethereum staking done right. Because even if you go by just pure market cap, which I know I tell you never to do, but dude, it's $400 billion market cap or something like that today. Which means if you cracked the algorithm, if you broke it in some way, you would have $400 billion today. And no, Ethereum itself has never been cracked. Can you have an insecure code? Yes. I mean, there's insecure ATMs. Actually, there's more theft of regular ATMs worldwide than there is anything out of crypto today.
Oh, wow.
Right? I can back that with actual data. You get these friggin' journalists going, oh, Ethereum is unsecure. No, it isn't. Ethereum is very secure. Just these programmers set up something to allow it to be hacked. So the reason for staking, though, is that now you're securing the blockchain. And now you're making sure that all the transactions, all that happens within this world, you're essentially one of many voters to make sure that this is secure. And as a result, you can earn a good amount of money because Ethereum is now deflationary. It is the first largest blockchain to be 100% deflationary. All right, they're still to this day burning more than they've created, and that means at some point you forget about the halving. This is going to be way more valuable than Bitcoin. So, from a usability standpoint, broader usability standpoint, I would say Ethereum has won the race hands down.
That was the programmability aspect of it was what intrigued me, because if you just combine, programmability and money in the same sentence, it just, to me, the possibilities just go, this like where would that, what's the limit on that? And some of just very practical things. Like I was wondering, could they make it like when you do you buy something and you're supposed to pay sales tax, can that just all be like programmed in and probably save businesses all this headache of, there's a lot of administrative things that have to be done because things are not programmable that maybe could just be done, in that whole use case. And that's a big, gigantic conversation. Maybe we can touch on one or two that are maybe not so obvious that maybe you're aware of, or just projects that people are working on that are a little bit out of the typical. Did anything come to mind for you in that realm? Just unique use cases.
I go back to one of my best podcasts. Trying to remember the name of the not Anderson Cooper, but whatever. But the one of the large consulting companies. All right, and they're working with Ethereum right now, and and actually contributing to the code base. And they have a Fortune 5 client. Think big. And one of the big problems in supply chain, they've been trying to solve this for more than 100 years. All right, when you get large scale production, and I'm talking anything, even houses, even cars, boats, planes, even down to the road that you're making, paving roads, anything that's like that large scale, you're producing things in a large amount of volume, and then it's used or consumed way down in the supply chain. There's really, until Ethereum came along, there's no easy way to trace it back, right? So let's say you have this part, when was it made? Who made it? What components made up that net component? It gets super complicated, super fast, all right? And they have, like I said, people have spent literally billions trying to fix that problem, all right? And until Ethereum came along, this is where, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, just to make this, so for example, a car has, a compressor in there somewhere that's compressing something to do something else. So what you're saying is with blockchain, you would be, if something went wrong with that part, what would blockchain help or Ethereum help?
So recalls, just a basic easy one, recalls. Okay. Rather than recalling 50 million cars because you don't know where that part got used, you can recall the 100 that really matters.
And that it surprises me that that's not currently possible without a blockchain.
With all of our technology today, no.
And is that because of you probably are someone that could really explain it. So what is different about blockchain and not blockchain worlds that allows this to happen?
Well, at a layer 2, every single component of every single part can be NFT. It would have a unique identifier that basically is then associated with that. So instead of serial numbers, forget that. It'll just have a little QR code. Done. Now, when you scan even the top level component, it'll explode out into everything else that's related to it. Everything. And you can track it all the way back to the origin.
Gotcha. Okay, so like when I go to Home Depot and I buy something and I got the little gun and it goes beep and it's capturing all that detail, you can do that in this assembly and manufacturing in a way that And what a great use case. Instead of recalling 1 million cars because 100 bad components went out, you can get to the actual bad components, the owners, and that's a big save. That would be a big savings.
Save a fortune. And
Wow.
not to mention improve quality of life. If something's really wrong with the part, you can
Sure.
reach out directly to those 100 people and get them back in immediately.
I'm going to share a use case that occurred to me because, and I think all of us, like, we have this thing in our mind, like, okay, we have this blockchain. What could it be used for? What could it be used for? So I do work with a philanthropic organization, and sometimes they have trouble with the reporting of how funds were spent. And as I listened to the challenges that people were having, because you have a lot of volunteers that are at work diligently, but like, are they going to do the same bookkeeping job as a paid bookkeeper at a paid company who has this dedicated job? And also, some of the nature of philanthropic work is that you're in areas of the world that don't have the strongest computer systems, Wi-Fi's, networks, and the people may be working with handwritten notes, etc. So in other words, the point is, it's not that people are trying to scam the system. It's just that it's kind of onerous for them to assemble all this stuff and then send it back in. And it's like, and it's all just about reporting. It's just like, because someone in a faraway office that's providing the funds has their due diligence, where do those funds get spent? So yeah, could there be like an app where you take a picture, take a picture of the receipt, press a button, and it just gets put on chain, and then that person that's out in the field that's trying to do some good work with skimpy resources has no more bother, doesn't have to sit there and assemble reports and format it and all that, because the information is now available in. I see you nodding your head. Is that a possible?
Yeah, that's already in use, and a few different projects have already done something with that. Gitcoin is probably at the forefront of that, just from a larger kind of a scale. The idea being, every organization has 1,000 different projects, really, and there's 1,000 different places that you can spend your money, or effort or time, or pick something. And so you kind of need a way, like you're talking about, for people and projects to, and it may not be dollars, it could be pound, yen, pick something, right? Or even Ethereum. And you need someone managing all that, yes. Gitcoin directly addresses this already, and it's actually a very mature code base now. You can copy it and use it yourself if you want. It's free, open source. And then, yes, organization can now, from small to large, can get together and decide what they want to spend their time and money on, vote on it, however you want to vote on it, and then move forward with those efforts with that objective in mind. And then once that objective is complete, the responsible parties are rewarded for it, or that resource is consumed. However you want to do it. Great project. The guy that started it was Kevin Iwaki, Ethereum member, Ethereum Foundation member, and then he left to start this, and now he's off to some other amazing projects. But yeah, that's one of those. You're right, and right down the line, there's so many of these different use cases that are already being solved. Probably, I would say the biggest problem we have right now, as a whole community, is just messaging. We're just not really, rather than talking about fintech, right? We're talking crypto. That's all people hear. Bitcoin is crypto. Ethereum is crypto. Staking is crypto. We're really fintech. We're really a software stack for any small to large organization that wants to have a more modern fintech approach.
That's now I was going in a couple different directions there, and I'm not sure which is good. So let's come just back into say your journey here for a minute. So at some point you did stake on Ethereum. Did you actually do that? How did you stake on it? How did you stake, as a solo staker or as a part of a pool, or how did that work?
Well, the first few that I did are Genesis, actually. So yes, I was there in the very beginning. And one of the first few, no, now coming up on 1,000 days of staking. And I would argue those are probably the most profitable ones because those few have already generated more than 16 Ethereum over time, right? So, and keep in mind, Ethereum's deflationary, right?
Right.
So I'm by no means a large staker. So yes, I had computers. I ran all the software myself. I started with the original Beacon chain and Prism and all that in Gap. The problem is, over time, it becomes a little bit more unwieldy for a solo staker, for somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of computing resources to be able to maintain a whole stack. Now, to maintain a whole stack, you need several different computers located in several different places. So actually, the technical difficulty has gone up quite a bit, as it should, for staking. And so that's where these other companies have come along, and there's some great ones, launch nodes. I'm just for fun trying all nodes. Turns out all nodes cost a little bit more than, say, a launch node setup, but they have a nice UI. But I think launch nodes over time will probably have a similar UI improvement. Just give anybody time, they'll have it. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of other folks out there. I'm still shopping around, but as far as being able to do it yourself, unless it's your full-time job, it's probably not going to happen because, like I said, the technical difficulty has gone way up. You need thousands of dollars of hardware, like I said, located at different data centers around the world. So, but just from a user perspective, running the code is not that bad. It really isn't. And so, like, for example, if you wanted to, like, one of the projects that's still based on Ethereum is Presearch, right? That's the company I'm also working with now. And I'm the CMO there. So you can do staking on Presearch. You are rewarded in pre-token. They're going to be going with Cosmos, which is the layer 2 for Ethereum. See, it's all Ethereum based. And that's something that, if you want to have a search engine that's decentralized, if you want to have an AI that's decentralized, I mean, how do you do it? Presearch is solving that. And they're solving that using the Ethereum blockchain. See, everything kind of rolls back to that. And there is none really better for what we're doing better than that.
That's pretty fascinating all in itself also. Wow. And again, sometimes you say things like my brain starts going in 5 different directions and then I don't know where to head to next. What strikes me about you, which is a little different than me, I tried to stake Ethereum myself. I just lacked, and I'll tell you exactly what I lacked. I lacked the nerve because I was uncertain enough over what I was doing from a technical point of view. And in staking, you're putting your chips forward, so to speak, and it's not a small amount. And I was like, no, I don't know enough about the unknowns here, and I don't want to push the wrong button and see, have some disaster happen where I lose my ETH or something like that. So that's when I discovered a company that would help me through that process. And so that's the launch nodes guys do. But I'll also tell you something, Jefferson. The way it's set up now, I don't do much anymore. It took a little while, and every once in a while, there's something happens. But on the steady state is like maybe every 4 weeks, they'll send out an upgrade of the software of the Prism. That's what I use.
Right.
And I have to go in because I'm using AWS now. And I have to navigate all the way through these different places in AWS. And I'm still a little bit nervous about it when I do it. But basically, I change one little code and then I back out and save everything. But it's definitely not for everybody. And, and I've even spoken to those guys. I said, because after doing that like 15 times, they say, there's got to be a way to put a little nice little UI in front of this and not just, click, paste, copy, click, and I'm done. And then I thought, well, what if I just have one node. What if I had many nodes? Is someone going in and every single node they have to repeat this process, that could get kind of labor intensive. So that's that kind of like that tooling aspect, right? Which is probably, as you're talking about these layers of stacks, we're at like, DOS command lines, basically.
Just a little above it.
A little above that.
But that's the thing. I mean, DOS started out, that same point, and now we have video conferences from around the world, live, streaming to your living room. So, and that was in, 30 years. So imagine crypto in, even 20 years from now, they'll be far beyond this, I think. And as it should be, the folks that were helping to build the foundation should be appropriately rewarded. And that's what this is all about. At the moment, I'm just the reason why I wanted to go all nodes is I wanted to try out Rocket Pool. I bought a whole bunch of Rocket Pool token from way back when it was way down. So I did good on that one. Because I saw that project and I'm like, I'm all in, So that's the reason. It's like I wanted to spin up some Rocket Pool nodes and see how that works. Right? And if I had to, I could bring those back to myself. But one thing I am never getting rid of is my Genesis nodes. I'm going to be keeping that one for a long time.
No way. What is it? What is a Genesis node?
You were there day one when Ethereum staking happened. You were one of the first stakers.
Oh.
Right? So yes.
That's what you were saying. You were an original Genesis node.
Five digit number, if you wanted to know. So very low. Everybody else is like 6 or even coming up on 7 digit. I'm back on the 5 digit numbers for ID. So that gives you an idea. I was there when. And that goes back to that history thing. It's so amazing that there's so many of these different projects. It's like, how do you prove something happened? And then I think about now blockchain. Now you can prove that these things are happening. Like with pre-search, now we can actually almost prove what the truth is. See, right now when you search on Google or Bing or anybody, they determine what the truth is going to be for you based on your profile, based on your shopping history, based on everything that they know about you, which is a lot these days. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't want, history rewritten, if you want a pure search, I'll give you a relevant example. I don't like the guy, but, he's around, Donald Trump. Let's say you're trying to research Donald Trump for history, and it shouldn't matter the reason why, but, like, what did Donald Trump say on, July 30th? Literally, I want to know the words. Right now, you search that on Bing or Google, they're giving you an edited version of that history. They're saying, oh, these are all the things that are false. I get it, but I want to know what he said, right? And keep in mind, that's just one guy. If they can rewrite the history for that one guy, now they have AI. Imagine how many other histories they can rewrite. And again, I'm an engineer. I'm all about facts. If you want to know how hard node staking is, it's actually really hard now. For example, that's the fact. And you can ask a bunch of people in the eStaker Discord channel, they'll all tell you the same thing. It's legit difficult now to do it yourself. But is it worthwhile if you got thousands of nodes? Yeah, through the guy, actually, you can probably look him up. He's like one of the more prominent block miners. But literally, you can see his history. His rewards all go to his address. And you can see he is restaking like 1 or 2 nodes every day. All right? Imagine the level of difficulty of that. All right? And so it goes back to, even if you're just one node, launch nodes or even all nodes is great. But imagine if you have thousands of nodes, all nodes is not going to be, I already found out, it's way more expensive than to do it on launch nodes, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to see but I also wanted to experience the UI, what it was like and so forth, to get an idea from a user perspective, staking, but still keeping everything on your ledger. That part is neat, actually, with all nodes. Using your ledger to sign the transactions that happen. That was really neat. So I'm now thinking, even beyond that, how do we, broaden that use case out to where what I'm seeing will happen in probably the upcoming years, that from your iPhone, you'll be able to stake easily. Because keep in mind, Ethereum has basically computing built in. So you'll be able to stake from your iPhone just as easily as you do anything else. and I think the costs are going to come way down over time, to the point that it's like part of the transaction, you know.
Mhm.
So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, when you mentioned the iPhone, I'm surprised that what they're, where they're going to land on cryptocurrency and all these things, because and I have to believe that they have people looking at it, because how could they not? No matter whatever statement they might or might not make. And I think that's something, you read articles, and the biggest of the big banks, they say, oh, this is all, scammy and watch out. And then they have units that are working to figure it out, because again, they would have to, because it's, in a way, it's a competitive thing. They kind of can't just say, well, we're going to ignore Bitcoin, or we're going to ignore Ethereum. So that's, that's very insightful that you have leaned in that way. Let's see, what else could I allow you to talk about? Anything you want to say that
A couple last thoughts,
Sure.
actually some good ones. I think that one of the key things to realize is that crypto is really a better representation of energy than fiat, if you will, any dollar or yen, or pick something. And the reason being is, really, in this universe, there's only two things: there's matter and there's energy, right? So, and everything else, literally everything else, is a derivative of that. Gravity, the walls that we see, all of that is derivatives of matter and energy. And by the way, neither can exist without the other, right? So it's one of those very interesting, philosophical things. But you go beyond that, and you go, well, if one person produces one work unit, doesn't matter what it is. They write a document, they jump out of a perfectly good airplane with a parachute, whatever it is. That energy has now been expended. How do you represent that energy? And until cryptocurrency, everything was represented using dollars. And the problem with dollars is it's like basically a information black hole. You can spend a dollar. 99% of the information about the transaction has immediately been lost. The only thing that you know is that $1 has happened. That's it. You look at that dollar bill and you go, well, how did I get this dollar? How did this dollar come into being? What am I, what, who, where, why, how?
Whose hands has it been into? What things did it buy or not buy? Or
well, if you ask Robert De Niro in that one movie, he used it to snort coke. So there's a lot that can happen with that dollar, right? And it becomes very interesting that crypto now is a much better representation of energy. And that's what it's about. Is we have to be able to, as a species, even better communicate with each other about this energy event, whatever that energy event is. And that's where, like I said, crypto comes in. You can programmatically represent transactions. And what do I mean by that? So imagine, again, you go back to the guy jumping out of an airplane. Now you can actually more accurately represent all the elements of that transaction. What parachute he was using, the serial number of that parachute, where GPS coordinates, that can be saved right there in the transaction. An NFT of the guy jumping out of the airplane can be generated on the fly with that date and timestamp actually happening, that you can hand out to your 100 best friends, on and on and on. There is so much that can happen programmatically that you cannot do with the fiat. And keep in mind, it's decentralized. What does that mean? That means that the blockchain, nobody else has to get involved with that transaction. You don't have to ask the U.S. government permission to, graffiti on a dollar bill that something had happened. Keep in mind that's illegal to do, right? Here, crypto welcomes you to put the graffiti all over the blockchain. It doesn't care. Nobody's going to veto it. Nobody. So therein lies that distinct difference. It's not so much about the Ayn Rand philosophy, which, to be fair, is really unworkable. Like, if everybody were to try to do Ayn Rand, it would never work because we all have to rely on each other. I'm sorry, that's the universe we live in today. So if we're going to cooperate, and it's like one of the people I was working with had a disagreement with one of the other people I was working with, and I was like, dude, listen, you don't have to like the guy. You just have to work with him. That's it. And it's not even for very long. It's just for a little bit of time, and then you're done. And that's where we're at with the blockchain. We don't have to like each other with the blockchain, and we definitely don't have to trust each other with the blockchain. Trust is not a requirement of the blockchain. It either is or it isn't. That's it. And that's why I like crypto in this industry. And, the last thought I'll leave you with, and it's the thing I do on my podcast, which I invite you to listen to, Around the Block. Currently on hiatus. No, I don't know how long, because I'm in the midst of this giant research project, but I do plan to start it up again. But it's like, if you're trying to get involved, if you're a young 21-year-old, grad student, or 24-year-old, going to be grad student, however it works out, right? And you're like, man, what is this blockchain all about, right? What am I going to do? Well, you can listen to podcasts like this one. You can listen to my Around the Block podcast. But more importantly, way more importantly, is get involved. Go to a meetup. Go talk to people. Find them on LinkedIn. Find them on Twitter. Send them a DM. If they don't reply, no big deal. Go to the next person. Look at the different projects. There's literally thousands of projects out there. If you join up a project and it blows up, no worries. You learn something. Go to another project. Don't be afraid to fail. I failed like crazy when trying to spin up a node. All right. I failed having nodes working. It literally blew up in my face. And I couldn't regenerate the node fast enough because, it took me a week before I found a way to host a node somewhere else while I'm trying to fix the regeneration of a node. Don't be afraid to fail. You're down for a week. You learn something. Nobody in this world is perfect. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail faster. That's one thing I like about Elon Musk. He says, fail faster. Recover as fast as you can from your failure. Learn as much as you can. You don't have to learn everything. Learn on the fly as much as you can and go, you know what? I'm not going to run everything on one piece of hardware anymore. I'm going to have 10 pieces of hardware, right? Or I'm going to go to 10 more meetups before I decide that this is a meetup I want to go to. Whatever it is, fail faster, right? So that's that last thought.
Oh, wow, Jefferson, that is wonderful. I think that's a great way to conclude. And this has been a really, really interesting conversation, which is many other conversations can come from this. Thank you, Jefferson Nunn, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And you're one of the first, again, you're part of our history. This is our 4th podcast. So you're right there at the early stage of something that we hope to continue. Thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Join us for the next episode of The Lone Stakers.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you sharing our crypto journey. Please send us a message via thelonestakers@gmail.com and make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and mash that bell button so you never miss an episode. The Lone Stakers Podcast. Everywhere you find podcasts.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.